In this week's show, we talk to Jes Mosgaard of the Mosgaard Distillery in Denmark, and he tells us all about their range of organic single malts.
And Dave tries some.
I do.
I didn't, because I drank all my samples before we did the interview.
Classic
All
Ken.
will be explained.
All the special time.
Can't be bad.
As always, you can double tap or immediately scroll past a feast of extra content on our social media platforms at Whiskey and Things Podcast on Instagram and at Whiskey and Things on Facebook and at their Twitter.
And it would help us out if you rate, review and subscribe on your podcast platforms that you desire. Or why not purchase some Whiskey and Things merch from whiskeyandthings.com.
Please.
You're listening to Whiskey and Things with Nick Kent and Dave Giles.
Welcome to Whiskey and Things. I'm Dave Giles.
And I'm Nick Kent. Episode 90, everyone. 90.
Is that what this is?
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
man.
you've written it there and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mad, isn't it?
That's crazy.
Yeah, how are you, David?
Not too bad. How are you, Nicholas?
I'm okay, David.
Do you know what I've just noticed? You are wearing a red top and you've got your lights white.
Yes,
The
I'm glad you
colours
noticed.
Of Denmark. I know you normally do these things and I don't normally notice.
Well, thank you for noticing. Yes, I nearly changed earlier, but then I thought, hey, it's red and the white light. No. It's nice when you notice, Dave. It's so rare.
I feel seen. I feel so seen right now.
It's so rare.
So yeah,
Don't
I'm
make any effort anymore.
I'm wearing all black.
Now you're seeing that other podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Dave looks like death, because he looks like he's wearing a black hoodie. And earlier he wasn't wearing a hat. I don't think, were you? So he looked a bit like Death from Bill and Ted, Bogus Journey.
I didn't have my light on very bright, so all you saw was a floating head.
Yes, it was a floating head,
Yeah,
everyone. Some people like a floating head, but that's for another time.
Anyway, let's get straight in. We'll do some any other business later, I'm sure. But this week, we're joined by Jes Mosgaard. Now, that is spelled Jes. Jes, right? That's how we would say that in this country. But in Denmark, it's Jes. So we're going to call him Jes, even though he does answer to Jes. If you see him out and about, he'll answer to Jes because he knows that if he introduces himself as Jes in England, that might cause him some problems. What's your name? Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes, what's your name? Yes.
Yes, what's your name? Yes.
Yes.
So he made us laugh when he told us that before we started this interview.
Yes.
Stop it! It's rude. You can't make those kind of jokes.
That was by accident. Apologies, yes. Anyway, Jes founded Mosgaard back in 2015 with his wife Gitte, and they produce organic single malts in a variety of cask finishes, which Dave tries all of them. Oh, not all of them, but 4 of them, and we'll get into that. And he's a lovely fella. We had a lovely little chat, and yeah, let's listen to it. We just finished. It was great.
Absolutely.
Jes Mosgaard, welcome to Whiskey and Things. How are you today?
Well, thank you. I'm fine. Just turned off the stills at the distillery, so I'm ready for you.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm a big fan of that.
Imagine that. Most jobs, it's I've sent my last emails, I've just put the cat out, something like that. Now I've just done the stills. Now I'm back. Here we go. I've never actually properly looked at Denmark on a map until today. I'm not going to lie. It's an amazing country. Yeah, like not properly like centered in. You know, you look at Europe and you look at bits and pieces, but today it's just like...
Yeah. Okay, I understand.
It's an amazing country. It's like so many islands and all kinds of things. Whereabouts are you? Tell our listeners.
Well, Denmark is the small irritating appendix on top of Europe, and we're in the middle of in the middle of Denmark. There's a small island called Funen in the middle of Denmark, and on the south side of Funen, that's where the distillery is. And the reason for being there is actually because of the water quality. When we started the distillery 6 years ago, we actually moved from the mainland, Jutland, to Funen, because the water quality is very good for making the type of whiskey that I prefer and that I wanted to produce.
Right. I'll tell our listeners, you were kind enough to invite a bunch of people to like an online tasting a few weeks ago, which I went along to. And it was great. It gave us a tour of the distillery and we had some samples and stuff. And one thing you did say during that was that hard water equals soft whiskey and soft water equals hard whiskey. Can you explain what that means? And does that still make a difference with today's filtration techniques, etc., as well?
Well, you don't filter the water when you do the actual the brewing. So it's mainly in the brewing process that the water quality is quite important. Water quality actually make quite a huge impact to the quality of whiskey, like it does for coffee, for example. And the hot water makes soft whiskey, soft water makes hot whiskey, is a saying from Scotland. So it's the typical difference between Highland whiskey and Lowland whiskey, where you have two different types of water. And the south side of Funen, where we have the distillery, is a very rich. It's an island with very rich soil, so it gives a lot of minerals in the water, and that gives us extremely hot water. Not only with chalk, but also a lot of different minerals that gives us this soft taste in the whiskey that I prefer.
Wow, I didn't know that about Scotch whiskey. So thank you for educating me on that one. Yeah.
Well, great. A Dane can learn you something.
Yeah. So even with the filtration and the regulations in terms of that still comes through, does it?
Yeah, I think if you look at the bottling process, where you might have to dilute your whiskey, you have to use either spring water or distilled water or something like that, so you don't have any minerals in it. Because if you have a lot of minerals in the water that you use for diluting your whiskey, if you dilute it into the bottle, you actually have a crystallization of the minerals. So after a couple of months, you would see the minerals going into the bottom of the bottle. Of course, it's not dangerous, but it doesn't look nice to have debris in your bottle. But during the brewing process, it's important for me to have a lot of minerals in the water that we use in the brewing process.
I'm learning so much right now.
Yeah, we were 3 minutes in?
Yeah.
More than...
Exactly right. This is amazing. Thank you very much for sharing this. Nick, I'm going to join you on some ignorance. You may not have looked at Denmark on a map much before, but the only things I knew that had come out of Denmark was bacon and Lego.
Oh.
So I'm really excited about trying something else from Denmark. I'm sure I've had other things from Denmark. I just haven't been aware of it.
Apparently the Danish wasn't even there. That's from Austria, apparently.
You're blowing my mind now. But funny about that, because I went to Vienna trying to get Viennese well. You know, like you can buy over here. Yeah. Couldn't get one in Vienna at all. So what's that all about? Anyway. Right.
Anyway, whiskey.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about your background. When did you develop your love for whiskey, and why did you decide to start your own distillery?
Well, I had a love for whiskey for many years, and actually had an interest in how do you get the flavor and taste into beer and wine and spirits and so on. So it's been a kind of a background interest for me. Of background, I'm an engineer, an audio engineer. I've been working with the audio industry for 25 years and been developing speaker systems and so on for different companies, started up a couple of companies as well. And back in 15, I've been co-founder of a company where we did AirPlay speakers. We sold it off to a Chinese company. And while living in Beijing, I thought, well, this was it. I made my last loudspeaker, and I wanted to do something completely different and challenge myself with something new. And been brewing and distilling for some years on a hobby basis. And I asked my wife, why shouldn't we start a distillery? And she demanded a business plan, and I made that, and she approved it. And that was the end of the audio career for me.
Wow.
That's what we need to do, Nick. Yeah. Start distilling. The end of our audio careers. There you go.
Dave and I are both musicians.
I can see that. You have some instruments in the background. And
yes, so, we have a fair few speakers too, so we know what you're getting on about. I'm just going to ask you a question, which I'm not going to lie. I'm now stealing from somebody from the tasting the other day. I couldn't remember who it was. Apologies. I will try and find out. But he asked whether or not you've looked into, from your speaker background, the kind of sonic treatment of aging casks, like the blackened whiskies. And I think Michter's do it in the States. I think it's Michter's. We've talked about this before, Dave. I can't remember. Basically, during the maturation, pump in a room full of noise and to agitate the casks. Is that anything you've looked at?
I've looked at it, yes. And some people are actually doing it. Some people are claiming that they can make sonic reactors where they can age whiskey in 2 weeks or something. And of course, you can actually do something, because if you you could put sonic transducers onto the casks and induce ultrasonic sounds into it. And actually, if you have the cells of the oak maturated with the whiskey, they would simply explode, and that would release a lot of flavor. But also, unfortunately, it would also release some unwanted natural tastings, like rubbing alcohol. So we have a bit of the taste of burnt rubber in all of these accelerated aging experiments. But of course, with my background, I've been looking into it and been trying it out. But nothing beats the actual natural aging that happens in cask. Of course, you can accelerate it a bit by using smaller casks like we do. But the aeration that you have in where the oxygen actually slowly burns down the whiskey and releases a lot of complex flavor compounds is something that you cannot recreate in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this leads me to another question, actually. Obviously, that's combining your two careers, but are there other similarities between the two careers? I imagine that engineering a speaker is... obviously you're making something completely different, but is there something in your head which sees them as being similar kind of beasts in terms of creation?
Actually, yeah, because if you want to create a harmonic sound picture, you need to have some kind of quality over the frequency range, maybe emphasis on some end or the other end, but you need to have some kind of harmony to make it sound the way that you prefer. So actually creating that is something, I found a lot of similarities in the way that you develop taste and the way that you actually listen to music. And when you try to, I'm not actually performing music, but I've only been working on recreating music. And I always had an idea that the speakers from my hand, I had an idea on how to recreate music. And you should always be able to hear that a speaker was from me, because I have a specific way of thinking how to recreate music, and the same way for taste. So I have a specific preference of taste that I want to put forward, and the balance in the taste is something that I work in. And of course, if you make speakers, you can focus on one area at a time and fine tune one area of the speaker frequency range, and then maybe another. The same goes for working with flavor. So there's actually a lot of similarities, and the main thing is that you can only touch one area at a time. If you try to turn too many handles at the same time, you just end up in chaos. So some of those things actually have some similarity.
Yeah, I thought that would be the case. Nick often compares, when we're doing tasting notes, he often compares things to various frequencies. He'll be like, this is the bottom end and this is the top end. And I quite enjoy that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like citric notes were kind of like hi-hats, the higher frequency stuff. Yeah, that's why I kind of see it.
Yeah, you can actually also, if you look into it, you can actually, your tasting, or the way that you actually perceive taste, actually also change depending on if you're in noisy areas, if you listen to high-pitched music, if you listen to some music with a lot of low end and so on, it actually affects your noise, or your tasting. So to taste and hearing actually is in some way bound together.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me because of what we've learned about taste, Nick, over the last year.
So,
but
yeah. So what's the best music to listen to while you're tasting whiskey, or frequencies?
I think it depends on.
Let's talk about your whiskey. What about your whiskeys? What do you recommend?
Is there a playlist that goes alongside a tasting session? There should be.
No, there isn't. Well, actually, if I try to do some tasting, some serious tasting, if I try to bring out tasting notes for the whiskey, I prefer to be completely on my own, not disturbed, and in a quiet area, and then also not too much light around me, so and around 20 degrees surrounding temperature. So in order to actually reduce the background noise in any way, so I can concentrate. But of course, I prefer some good jazz music if I just drink whiskey and enjoy it.
Nice.
Yeah, there we go. Heard it here first.
Let's talk about recreating tastes, etc., or maybe not. I don't know. You designed your own stills, is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you got 3 of them, and you had them hand built in Portugal, is what I picked up the other day.
That's right.
How did you come to the decision of what kind of stills you wanted, and what kind of research did you do to come to obviously it's flavor driven, but what sort of research and development did you do before you decided on those stills?
Well, I have a kind of mantra that goes into both the gin and the whiskey that we do, and it's bringing out sweetness, softness, and also some fruity notes. And of course, the softness, well, we touch that's something that comes from the water. The sweetness, well, it comes into the combination of the barley malt that we use, the way that we do the fermentation, and so on, and also we use a bit darker malt than the typical distiller's malt. So everything is something that brings out a bit of sweetness, and but the fruity notes is something that we bring out during the fermentation. We use a longer fermentation than you typically use in Scotland. We ferment for 1 week, and during the first 3 to 4 days, we have the primary fermentation, where the sugar that we create from the starch in the mashing process is broken down into alcohol. But during the second period of the fermentation, we have this esterification, where the yeast cells from the yeast that we use actually starts making esters out of the alcohol that it had created in the primary fermentation. And these esters, with the combination we have, give us a lot of fruity notes, apples, pears, and ciders. So the mash after or the wash after the fermentation actually is more like a cider. It's something in between wheat beer and cider, because there's so many fruity notes into it. And the stills are actually designed to bring out these fruity notes. What you can do when you distill is that you can design your stills to have a very complex reflux. It's only pot stills that we use, so it's a typical dual distillation as you use in Scotland, and you say we have 3 stills actually, because we have 2 wash stills and 1 spirit still, all the same size, so we have twice the volume in the wash still. But the reason for having that is simply because the ceiling height in the distillery is not that wide, so we have to split out the wash stills. But the head and the neck is designed to give a very complex reflux, and a very complex reflux means that you can have the alcohol in the vapor phase for a very long time. So you have a huge amount of cleaning effect from the catalytic process that the copper gives you. And the way that I designed it is actually using some of the same simulation tools that you can use for simulating how sound actually propagates. You can also use that for simulating how steam propagates, and that's been used for designing it. So I designed the stills in a way that we could give a very light new spirit, but focus on these fruity notes that we create during fermentation. And that was a bit of experiment, but it turned out very well.
Nice. Yeah, talking about the reflux, like one of the first things I look at on a still is, does it have an oogie? Which is the bulge in the neck, and you have rather large oogies, if I may say so. So that obviously helps the reflux.
Exactly.
How are you heating your stills? Because one thing I want to get onto is your sustainability credentials, and your organic barley as well. How are you heating those stills? And give us a bit of a background on your process in terms of achieving that.
Yeah, it's all of the stills are direct fired with a 100% biogas made of biomass. It's it's a question of definition, but it's a biogas made from biomasses and dead animals and everything what you do, and so essentially it's a carbon dioxide neutral, and that's something that we try also to have a huge focus on sustainability. also all of the remains that we have from the primary production. So what we have left of the barley mash is reused as food for. It's organic, so it's very popular. It's used for basically sheep and cattle. And the pot ale we have after distillation is reused as food for pigs. It's very popular. It tastes extremely well.
Fantastic. Bring back that bacon, Nick. Full circle. Full circle there.
It's kind of Kobe pigs when it's feeded like that.
Is Denmark an environmentally conscious nation as a whole?
Yeah, I think we're trying to put some effort into that, and I think Denmark as such is world leading in windmills and so on, and we're trying to put a lot of focus on recycling and also sorting whatever garbage we have in the households and so on, and also reusing whatever excess heat we have from companies and so on. So I think, with all respect, we're trying to be world leading in that, and we're also trying to show what you can actually do to reduce the excess use of resources in our distillery.
Yeah, apparently, like in the UK, we're looking actually to take on something you guys have been doing actually, which was putting like a deposit system on cans and drinks bottles, etc. So when you return it, you can buy a drink and they have a little bit of money on top, and you return it and you get that money back, and you recycle it. Sorry. So yeah, so that's a good idea. 2024 apparently we're meant to be doing that, Dave.
Why is it taking so long? This has been in place in many places in Europe forever.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, we had the Danish recycling system for glass containers from beer and so on for many years, and right now everything plastic containers for juice and soft drinks and so on is also in the recycling system.
Yeah, I'm always very impressed when I'm in Europe compared to what we do. They always seem streaks ahead on that front, which doesn't surprise me.
You're listening to Whiskey and Things.
Shall we? Should we taste some whiskey? Because I've yet to. This all sounds amazing.
Dave's thirsty.
I've yet to have any of this, and I've got 4 wonderful samples in front of me, which I'm hoping to crack open.
I'm sorry to say. Well, I'm not sorry to say, because I was enjoying them so much during your tasting a couple of weeks ago. I finished all my samples. So this evening.
I can give you some here.
It's one of those things. I was planning on saving some for tonight, but as we were doing the tasting, I don't know, I just kept needing another bit, and I was enjoying it. And then when we started sampling another one, I kind of started sniffing the one I just had, and I was finding all kinds of other new flavors. So I was like, oh, well, what about the one before that? Oh my God, there's some more stuff in there as well. Basically, I ended up finishing a lot. So, but I have my notes from that night. So, and I felt guilty asking for more. I finished all the samples. Please, can you send me some more? It was a bit...
So you also know the best combinations. Is that what you're saying?
We'll do the PT one last. Yeah.
the samples were simply too small, I can think. So, well, I sent out 4 different samples, and I think you
don't make me feel bad.
It's just small samples, so don't worry. Well, we do some different single cask and also some cask experiments, and actually there's a new cask experiment coming out this week, which is very interesting. And but back to we have 4 different whiskies, actually 5, but you only tasted 4 of them because the newest one has been completely sold out for the last month or so. So nice. There's 5 different whiskies in the fixed varieties that we have. There was the unpeated, and then we have one peated, and we have the Oloroso sherry cask, which is kind of a classical way of actually maturing whiskey the entire period in sherry cask. We have the port wine cask here, which is a bit different because I've always been very fond of port cask whiskies, and most of the port cask whiskies you can find is just cask finishes because the port cask they give a lot of effect. So I wanted to see if it was actually possible to make a port cask whiskey that was aged the entire period in port casks. So the port casks that we built for this, you can see it's very dark, rich is actually port casks that are built of two different types of port casks. So I buy old ruby casks and old tawny casks, and then when we have them rebuilt into the smaller casks that we use 50% of stage from the ruby and 50% from the tawny. So we have you have a balance between the fruity notes, the lighter notes from the ruby, and the heavier, sweeter notes from the tawny. And it was kind of an experiment to see if we could bring it into balance and age something the entire period in port casks.
Dave, pour that one.
Which number is it? Lovely. Is that number 3?
That's number 3. I remember enjoying it very much.
Just pour a bit sip of that.
That's amazing.
So,
do you do that yourself with the casks, or do you have a cooper nearby?
No, there are no coopers left in Denmark. So all of our casks are built in Spain, where there's a lot of cooperages, and so we buy the port cask in Portugal and have them rebuilt in Spain. So in Spain, you still have a lot of cooperages where they do a lot of cask for the sherry industry, but in Denmark, it's long gone.
Man, this smells amazing. We need a scented candle with this one, Nick.
Dave loves a scented candle.
That is beautiful on the nose.
We were talking a few weeks ago, weren't we, Dave, whether we tried a port cask or whether, well, we were definitely going to try and find one. And then one's just beautifully turned up, Dave.
Have we established that we haven't tried one? Or if we have, we've not been aware of it?
We hadn't done it on the show, I don't think.
Right. Because I love port.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of port, so which is probably why I'm enjoying the smell of this, because you are getting some of the notes you get from port on the nose, obviously.
Yeah, if you sit with it for a while, and you actually, if you know your port, you can actually distinguish both the notes from the ruby and the tawny. Comes and going and in and out. And
I got when I was smelling it, a strong caramel on the nose straight off the bat. And on my second round, which then meant I then finished the sample, toffee was quite prominent. I know they're quite similar, but but
I think
very different.
You probably find a lot of caramel notes in all of the whiskies that we do, because we use direct firing, and that gives us a bit of caramelization in the stills of the tiny amount of residual sugar that you have in the wash after the fermentation.
Oh, okay. That's not from the cask, and the sugariness in there.
I think you'll find the notes in the new spirit as well. It's kind of has kind of a sweet sensation to it. So I think most of the caramel notes, the toffee notes, is something that actually comes from the stills.
Interesting.
So it's developing for me over time, which I'm really enjoying. So at first, I could really pick out the port, which was lovely. And at first, it reminded me, it took me into a room that has a freshly felted pool table. I don't know if you've ever been in a room that's ever had a freshly felted. It's a beautiful smell. It's such a beautiful smell. And I was getting elements of that smell, which I was very much enjoying. Leaving my nose in the glass for a little bit longer, I'm getting pineapple cubes, Nick. You know me, love a sweet.
Yeah.
There's definitely a tropical twist to this towards the end, which I'm very much enjoying. It just, it does this. I don't want to drink it because I'm enjoying smelling it so much. But I will.
We're very different characters, me and Dave.
Yeah,
we're very different.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually that's a good thing to hear, because for me it's just like that as well. Because the better a whiskey is, the longer it lasts in the glass, because you just keep on sniffing it, and you just enjoy sniffing it, and you don't want to taste it.
Yes.
Sorry, I just had my first sip, and I just want to say that is absolutely incredible. Wow,
isn't it? I enjoyed that.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, not your name. It's just I'm saying, yeah. Yes, you've done it. Yes, yes. Just so many yeses right now. This is incredible.
49% ABV as well.
Yeah, correct.
All the ABVs, are they like? Did you have something you really wanted to set them to, or was it just done on taste?
It's done on taste, and they're all different. The two sherry casks are around. They're in the 64s, and this is a bit more intense, so it works at a higher ABV. And if you look at the newest one that you haven't tasted, the Palo Cortado sherry cask that comes out at 53%. It's not cask strength, but actually where it works the best. So what I typically do is that I end up with a lot of glasses and pour it, and then I dilute it 1% at a time and see where it opens up and where it actually comes out with the flavor, with the tasting notes, and that I want to bring forward into it. And especially if you look at the Palo Cortado, it opens up at 53. We have a lot of these bitter orange notes, lemongrass that you can find in the Palo Cortado sherry. If you bring it down to 50, 51, it dies completely. And then it opens up again at 46, 48, but it comes out with some darker notes. So it's simply a question that I bottle it at the strength where it brings forward what I'd like to put emphasis on, where I like people to actually enjoy it. So you can open up most of them with a drop or two of water, but they're actually meant to be drunk at the ABV where they're bottled.
This is so good. I'm getting black currants and all kinds of lovely fruity notes in there at the front. Obviously, you got some tannins in there, which I'm a fan of in this instance. They're great. There's a spiciness to it. Definitely getting some spiciness in there. Maybe some apples as well, perhaps.
That's probably coming out from the that's coming from the new spirit, and it's something that you can actually. That's also the reason that I'm using the whiskey is quite young. And it's matured in smaller casks. So in the smaller casks, you can bring out this intense flavor over a shorter time. What the fruity notes, the esters that you actually have with the apples, pears, and citrus is something it's quite vulnerable notes. So they're broken down over the years in larger casks. So that's the reason for using smaller casks, because then you can still keep these fruity notes that I like to have in my whiskey.
I wasn't going to buy any more whiskey, Nick. I wasn't going to buy any more whiskey this year. That has gone into one, possibly.
Are you
going
to go quiet in a minute? You're going to go quiet.
Mate, my hands are hovering over the keyboard.
Well, shall I tell you where you can get it and how much it is?
Well, potentially. No, don't yet. Because maybe I want to try the other ones. Make sure I pick the right one. That's gone straight into my top 5 from this year. But I don't know where. I haven't actually got a top 5. But that's definitely one of the top whiskies I've had this year. Think of how many we've tried. That was really special.
Yeah, I remember that one really standing out for me. It's very nice. Do you want to try some more, Dave? Do you want to try some more?
Oh yeah, go for it. Go for it, of course.
We might be going in the wrong direction because we started out with number 3 and not number 1 or 2. But if we should go back to number 2 and you like the tannins, there's also a bit of tannins in that one. That's the PX, and
this was my favourite of the 4.
Ooh.
The port wine one I loved, and it was very unique. And I remember really like, oh, that's a squeak.
Great squeak.
That's a good squeak. Yeah. And but the PX one I was remembering. I think that was the first one I finished.
The PX is actually it's typically, again, you cannot mature the entire period in the PX cask. It simply because the PX sherry cask are so sweet, intense, and it can become a bit dull on the whiskey. So what we do here is that we give it a first aging in new French oak, and the new French oak.
Okay.
It's a virgin French oak, so it gives some spicy tannins, and the spicy tannins can be a bit mouth drying. There's a bit of this mouth drying effect that actually balances the sweetness that you have from the PX cask. So it's in balance, but it's dark and it's intense. It's a bit of spicy as well. And some people even think there's a bit of smoke into it, but it's just simply from the PX cask. We have these burnt figs, some heavy leather, and that comes into the taste of the PX casks.
What are you getting, Dave, before I tell you what I got?
So on the nose, I'm getting like pistachio nuts.
Oh.
Which I'm really enjoying. It does have a dry, and this is going to sound really silly perhaps, but it's a dry wood smell. Which is when you said French oak, virgin French oak, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we have this the spiciness, the pepperiness from the French oak.
Yeah, I'm get pistachio on the nose for me all over, and I'm loving that. Right, let me try it.
Yeah, the nose for me, I was getting kind of furniture polish kind of smell. It's very comforting, kind of very rich.
I knew
furniture.
You were going to say that. It's not something that I was going to say, but I was like, Nick's going to say furniture polish. I knew you were going to say that.
But it's a comforting smell, and it is very nice. And it doesn't taste it, and it doesn't taste like polish. You know, people might think that. That's not what it is. It's just a note, which is this comforting smell, and it's a bit like that. Grassy. Fresh grass and stuff on the nose as well for me.
This is so fresh. I've just had a sip. It's so fresh, isn't it? I mean, that's just beautiful. Again, more of a summery vibe to this one, or a spring vibe, perhaps spring-summer vibe. Whereas I would say the port wine one was more of a autumn-winter vibe. This is really fresh. This is stunning, and again, really stunning.
It's also something. It's of the different whiskeys I have. This has always been my favorite, and it's been in the international competitions. It's been a little bit behind the Oloroso all of the time until this year. I've been developing a bit on the balance between the PX Cask and the French oak, and I think I nailed it this year because at the World Whiskey Awards, this was awarded a double gold medal this year. Actually, it was the best Danish single malt this year. So it was the Danish contester in the World Championship of whiskey, and we didn't win, but that's also okay for a young distillery not doing it.
How many distilleries are there in Denmark?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I was just about to ask the same thing.
Yeah, well, I don't want to take anything away from your achievements, but you know.
Well, how many are we? Well, actually, I think today it's around 18 distilleries in Denmark that are doing whiskies, or coming up with whiskies in the coming years. And in total, I think it's when we started 6 years ago, there were 14 distilleries in all in Denmark, and today there's probably around 100 distilleries. And most of the distilleries are actually doing gin because it's faster and easier getting going. But 18 for sure today is coming up or having whiskey in the market already.
Wow, that's 100.
What changed there that suddenly created this growth?
I can't tell you.
I wondered if the law had changed or something like that because we've seen that in other countries.
Well, there were a bit of change because you actually when we started, there's been. Actually, until 1973, there was a monopoly in Denmark for it was only the Danish state that was doing spirits in Denmark.
Right.
When we joined the European Union back in 1973, they had to lift the monopoly, and nobody started because you have to make a huge deposit for the Danish state for the taxes that you were creating for in the distillery, and that has been lower over the time. And I think when we started in 15, it was taken down to 1/10 of that amount in 17, and that really there were a lot of small gin distilleries started up at that time.
Yeah, that would make sense for sure. This really, again, these two are delightful, absolutely delightful. I'm not sure if I've got a favourite because there's a characteristic within both of them which is running through them, but they're also very different, aren't they? I feel a little bit like the port cask is it PX I'm drinking now? Yeah, it's the PX on like steroids. Like it's just kind of blown up. Just beefed up, like just something
more bottom end, Dave.
Exactly, more bottom end. I think you're right. Yeah. I think there's more bottom end to the
50 hertz.
Definitely on the port wine. I think that's definitely right. But the thing is, you don't want 50 hertz all the time. Sometimes you need to take it away and give your ears a rest. And so I don't know if I have a favourite right now, but these are both absolutely stunning.
Try the Oloroso, Dave. Why not?
My God, don't.
Well,
what number's that?
So that's number one.
Number one.
Oh, it's up to you.
Oh, no, I'd love to.
You're listening to Whiskey and Things.
We haven't done this before, or I'm not tasting and Dave is. It's quite fun.
No, I haven't done this either because this is the completely wrong direction because we're starting out from the most intense whiskey and then we are ending up with the light and elegant Oloroso here.
So Nick, I'm guessing you got more furniture polish on this one. This is that kind of smell again, isn't it?
No, I got apple. But the other thing that stood
There's
out on
loads
me,
of-
I got a
loads of
touch. I got a touch of, Dave. You'll
Yes.
find this amusing. The Chardonnayness. I'll fill you in. A few weeks back, we tried this Swiss whiskey called Langerton, which is matured in a Chardonnay cask, and there was a flavour I didn't like too much in it, which I put down to the Chardonnay cask. Now, I'm picking up a little bit of that note in this, but it's so subtle, it's nice. That's the thing. With this, with the full maturation in a Chardonnay cask, something happened where I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. But I did pick up a bit of that in this, but it's not like an unpleasantness. It's like everything, again, is in balance. You know, it's like, there's a note I don't like, but there is. It's nice when it's put together with everything else. Maybe Dave will pick up on that as well. But,
well, I'm improving my vocabulary in English here because I never heard the expression.
That's not an English language, trust me.
Chardonnay-ness.
Yeah, do not ever use it either.
Do not repeat that.
Do not repeat it. On the nose, I was thinking this is quite similar to the PX cask. Like I'm going from one to the next, so perhaps it's tainted a little bit by that. So on the nose, I definitely thought, okay, this is going to be fairly similar to that. Oh no, not at all. When you then try it, it's completely different. What is that? No, I've got it. There's a spice in there.
Chardonnay-ness.
It's the Chardonnay-ness, yeah. No, there's a spiciness in this. What is it? I'm no good with my herbs and spices. I'll say the wrong one, which will then give people cloves. I'm getting a load of cloves. Remember when you got an orange and you used to put cloves in it as a Christmas thing? But this doesn't remind me of Christmas, weirdly. But it's like that kind of explosion of spiciness as it hits your tongue is amazing.
He's just finished. He's just.
Oh
just
my
finished
god!
it.
No, in
Listen,
fairness, I poured half, Nick. I didn't go all out because I thought I'd save some for later. And I thought, based on your suggestion, I might want to change the order I do them in.
there you go.
You should just work your way back again.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're in the right direction.
Yeah, that's really wow. Yeah, that's that clove spiciness, citrus vibe, apple on the nose, loads of apple on the nose. Nick was right there. But there's an orchid fruit thing going on as well. Although you've got the citrus, it's just fruity as hell. I love it. That's amazing. Oh, I don't know which one my favourite is. Oh,
Yeah.
It's okay.
because
You don't have to choose.
I don't have to choose, but I love the fact that they're all so good. Like they're all so good.
Thank you. But you are absolutely right, because this is the most elegant, the Oloroso cask that gives this huge effect as the PX cask of the port cask. So that's really where you have some of the sensations from the new spirit, all of the fruitiness from the new spirit is still in this whiskey, even though it's fully matured. So you have all of this apples, pears, and citrus, as you mentioned.
Yeah, pears. Yes. Just delightful. I'm actually blown away by how good these three are. Absolutely blown away. That's quite a collection we've got here.
Yeah. Do you want to do the peated one?
I'm just very aware I've got to interview an astronaut in 2 hours.
It'll make it easier. No, we don't have to do that then.
No, it's all right. I'll have a little bit.
Okay. Tell us about the peated release then, please.
Well, the peated is as you can probably see, it's also, even though it says it's peated in bourbon cask, it is darker than a typical bourbon cask aged peated whiskey. That's again because we're using the French oak to bring out some balance, because the bourbon cask gives you this typical almond vanilla notes that calms down the peated sensation. Whereas if you put it into French oak, it makes the peat vibrate a bit and gives us some spiciness. So what you have here is for me, peat is not everything. If it's just peat and some sweetness, it's not interesting. So we have some of the fruity notes here. We have the peatedness, and we have some of the spicier notes as well from the French oak. So it's a full range of sensation that hits you in this one. I think that's the way that I like peat, where it's just one of the sensations, not the carrying sensation that you have in your whiskey.
Yeah. I think I'm the same in that regard. On the nose, I'm not getting much of the peat, which is fine. Maybe I am.
It was very delicate.
It's very it's very subtle. If it's there at all on the nose, it's very subtle.
Yeah, wasn't it subtle? Didn't you say it was 20 to 25 ppm? Wasn't it?
It is. So, yeah, you can actually, if you want some more peat on the nose, you can just open up with a couple of drops of water.
Okay,
it would open up on the nose, but you still, and that gives you a better balance actually between what I have on the nose and on the palate of my tongue. So if I drink it, I typically put a bit of water in and dilute it. It's 48%. ABV. So I think if you want to have more on the nose, you should reduce it down to 44, 45, something like that.
Yeah, I'm fine with not having too much on the nose. I'm just actually, this is really nice on the nose for me. I mean, I'm definitely getting almonds. That almonds thing's really coming through, and a hint of vanilla. I'm going to try this now. Oh, wow!
It's been a good night for Dave.
Well,
we'll see you later.
That was more peat than I was expecting, actually, based from the nose. But again, balanced in with, see, this is annoying, isn't it? Because I can see now why, Nick, you finished your samples. Because it's complex. It's not too complex, but there's lots there. There's lots of little things you want to pick out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kept, when you have a glass and you keep sipping smaller and smaller little sips, and you're like, that's not a proper sip.
Let me put it over my other side of my tongue, see what happens there. Like,
yeah, you like, that's not even a proper sample in my mouth. So I'm going to pour the rest and do a proper sample because you keep picking out more things. That's what happened to me.
Yeah,
and that's a very good thing.
Yeah, this again for a peat, very fresh. Getting the cut grass on the tongue there, which I'm enjoying. It's very fresh again. I think it's really fresh. None of these feel as strong as they are either. That's nice. Not that they're particularly high, but they're all very drinkable, aren't they?
Clearly.
That was my intention, at least.
Like, you're not getting blown away with ethanol.
So any other fun cask expressions? What's the other one you had coming out soon?
Well, actually, this week we're coming out with a what we call our cask experiment series. That's the volume 2 coming out now. We did the first one last year. And the one coming out this week, that's a huge experiment, and it's something that I also think we are obligated to do as a small new distillery because we're not bound by any doctrines. We haven't done whiskey for hundreds of years, and so we can also challenge what can whiskey be. So what I've done here is it's a triple cask aged whiskey coming out, and first it's been matured in full in small ex-bourbon casks. So we have this nice almond vanilla notes. And then it's been matured for 1 year in hogsheads. That's previously been used at one of the estates in Denmark where they make cherry wine. There is an old cherry wine sort or variety in Denmark, which is very sour cherry, and they make wine from that. And we have this... we have some of their older casks that's been used for maturing this for 1 year. So it's been out in one direction, seeking the acidity and these bitter marzipan notes from the cherries. And then to get it back into balance again, it's been giving this final cask finish in Moscatel to bring out some of the sweetness so we have it in balance. And that one is actually coming out this week.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that because we've actually done on this show, Macmira released under the Scorpions band name, and that was matured in cherry wine casks, and I was a big fan of that one. So yeah, that sounds really interesting.
I hope you'll see the cask experiment in the UK as well. But otherwise, let me know. I'll send you some samples and larger samples than last time.
Oh, right.
So they last.
Yes, these have been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing them with us. And
yes, thank you.
Introducing us. My first Danish whiskey, and absolutely blown my mind. And I like the fact they are unique as well. Nick and I have had this conversation many times about when you're trying a whiskey from a new region, you want it to have a character, and all of these do have a character. I think it goes back to what you said right at the start about the choice of the water and all those choices you made have all come out within what I've just tasted to create something which is unique to where you're from, but also obviously tips its hat to what's gone, where these things came from originally. They're wonderful. All four are absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
So yeah, great job. Thank you for sharing them with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
It's been a pleasure.
Sharing your thoughts about our whiskey with me.
You're listening to the Whiskey and Things podcast.
The full uncut video of that interview with Jes will be available to our patrons on our Patreon page, no less, which you can find at www.patreon.com/whiskey and things.
What a couplet that was.
I got through it quite well. Did I?
That was incredible. Our forward view with Jes will be on our website, no less. You didn't even know you did it, did you?
I'm a poet. I don't even know.
Old school.
I got that from Joe.
Thoroughly enjoyed that, mate.
Yeah, I
thoroughly enjoyed that. Good
what can I
job.
say? Wasted. Yeah, and I'll put some links to Mosgaard over on our socials. I looked at their website, mosgaardwhiskey.dk. I couldn't find the English translation button. So if you know,
what browser were you using, Nick?
Huh? I was using Safari. Funny enough, I'll try on some of the more reliable ones. But there should be a button on all of them. But I'll also put their Instagram and Facebook up. They're in English, kinda, some of them. Anyway,
excellent.
Look at the description.
Nick, I didn't ask. I think we got distracted. How much is a bottle of those things? You said you were going to tell me, and then you didn't.
I know. Thought I'd do it now because it's a regional thing. And I'm sure you knew, but anyway. First one was the port wine. That was $59.95 for a 50 CL. That was a master of malt. The second one you had was the PX Cask. Again, 50 CL, $59.95 also. Third one, Oloroso. So I just said $58.95. And I couldn't find the peated on master of malt. I probably could have looked further, but I didn't. But they're out there. They're around 60 quid a bottle for a 50
I can't
CL.
believe how good value that is.
Yeah, they're really nice, aren't they? And from, it's such a lovely, intimate operation they've got going on there. From what I saw from the online tour and tasting I did the other day, it's such a nice little operation. So yeah, the love and craft he's putting into it. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. It's a real passion for him, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Loved that interview. Loved the whiskey. Learned a lot. Everything you want from a guest, isn't it?
Yeah, ticked all the boxes.
I can't get over those whiskies, Nick, and especially at those prices.
Yeah, it's just
amazing.
Nice. And they're organic, CO2 neutral as well in their production, zero waste, all that kind of thing. So they're ticking all the boxes. They're ticking all the boxes.
Fantastic. All right, mate. Let's move on, shall we?
Sure.
Sting me,
Whiskey?
mate. I got a funny any other business for you, which is also.
Hey Dave, you got any other business?
Yeah. It's it's also whiskey related. I think you're going to enjoy this. I think this might make you laugh. I may have just prepared. I gone and bigged it up too much now, haven't I?
Well, I don't know. I haven't bigged up too much. I wouldn't go any further. Let's put it that way.
Okay. My mother very kindly got me and my brother, while we're doing rhymes, a whiskey advent calendar.
Oh, yeah.
We both got the same one.
Oh, yeah.
Day 2 was the Woodsman.
Oh, what did your brother say? Is this this is where we're going? 'Cause your brother usually has some fun things to say. Stephen Giles.
So Steve is intending on doing tasting notes every day and sending them to me. I've yet to do it. So sheep dip was day 1. Christmas cake on the nose, he says. Smooth, easy, antiseptic, sweet.
Sounds like me.
Day 2, Woodsman on the nose. Smelly feet.
Wow.
And dark cherries.
Okay.
But then, wow, delicious, like a strong white wine, thoroughly drinkable, oaky with a slight hint of smoke. Now, I'm going to caveat that. My brother's not a massive spirit drinker or whiskey drinker. And we said at the time that we felt that this actually probably was a really good gateway whiskey.
Yeah.
As much as I was annoyed with the marketing, really, we did say it was easy to drink. We did say that for beginners into it, it's probably a good thing. Our comments were we didn't think it, for the price, it was amazing. It was all right, but it was just meh.
It's fine.
We were just meh by it. But
It's
then
meh.
I'm not sure if that was because we were tainted by the fact I hated the
marketing stuff.
the marketing so much.
Yeah.
But it did when I got that message, I was like, of course you love the Woodsman, don't you? Of course you do. Ugh.
Well, he didn't say he loved it, but hey,
I'd say wow, delicious is strong word in there, Nick. Wow,
Yeah.
delicious.
The one which came out for me was the smelly feet. But,
that was on the nose though. But once he then tasted it,
yeah, there we go. I'd still say if you're going for a white Mackay, buy the Shackleton. It's just it's around the same price. And
that was the next day, and he's not yet had it yet.
Oh, okay.
So
See what he thinks of the Shackleton.
Well, I didn't want to say to him, if you like that, you're going to love tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not that I'd opened it, but when I then opened my window and got the Shackleton, I was like, oh, I think he's going to love that.
Yes.
So yeah, we've got that to look forward to.
Which advent calendar have you received, though?
It's one. It's just the standard Master of Malt whiskey.
Master of Malt one.
calendar. Yeah, drinks
I
by the
didn't know which
dram
ones.
rather.
Oh yes,
Which is the same company, isn't it? But it's not. It's not the boutique one, or
Yeah.
they had some premium ones, and it's just a standard whiskey.
I didn't get one because it was December already. I'm not going to just buy one because of the sake of it. Suddenly, I saw some people posting advent calendar stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, it's December. I said last year I'll get one. I haven't, but there we go.
But yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and have any of them yet. We're day 6, and I feel like I'm wasting it. But I'm excited. I love having the little sample. Drinks by the dram sample bottles are just delightful, aren't they? Little wax seal. They're always lovely. I love it.
I love a wax seal.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that was my only other business, mate. My brother loved Woodsman.
Right. Are you going to ask me if I've got any other business?
Oh, Nick, have you got any other business?
I've got a little bit of business.
I'll go and get a drink, shall I?
Yeah, I'm basically going to tell you the story of Woodsman and the history of the distillery. No, Billy Abbott was talking about chocolate limes last week or the week before.
Did you?
There was one packet left at the service stations, which I fill up at in Westerham before I drive back to Manchester every week from London. So yes, I picked up a packet of chocolate limes for the car.
So good.
I'm not impressed. Meh.
Oh my God. What's wrong with you?
They're not as Moorish as the sherbet lemons or the rhubarb and custard. The only thing that stops me eating the rhubarb and custard is they get a bit like sandpaper in your mouth and you get a bit of a sore tongue because they are quite rough. But the chocolate limes, nah, I don't think it kind of...
You're wrong.
Not into it.
You are wrong. They are the greatest. I'm with Billy on
But will
this.
I pick it out in a whiskey at some point? I may do.
Well, maybe.
I've still got a load of them in my car, so I've got plenty of time to get them into my memory bank.
Yes, you do.
But yeah,
Yes, you do.
Billy, not into them. There we go. Anyway, that's my
Outrageous.
any other business.
Outrageous. Right then, Nick, I think the Angels have had their share, mate.
Yep. You've had yours tonight. I've had nothing.
I definitely have, mate.
I've had nothing.
Definitely have.
But there we go.
Well, it makes a change.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming.
That's more like it. Whiskey and Things has been brought to you by And Things Productions.
I remembered. I took the note on the chin, Nick. I took it on